Hello and welcome to Guthli Talks presented by Miles SOBA. How were your initial days?
Well, initially I was never interested in getting into advertising. Life's ambition was to become an IPS officer.
How welcoming is the advertising industry?
The only tough thing in advertising is to get into advertising is difficult. See, advertising is not all creative. That's one mistake people make. Unless you're creative, you can't get into advertising. Advertising has different departments. You must realize that in a consumer's mind, there are slots which are occupied, which means you have to create a slot for yourself. You can't be what we call in advertising a Me Too product. So you'll not believe this, at a dinner table on a tissue paper, I wrote a campaign. So we were having fun and Amul got that image that it makes you smile. So that girl not only sold butter, it sold all the other Amul products. To think completely differently. You're thinking out of the box, and these are cliched words. Nobody thinks out of the box. Nobody allows you to think out of the box.
Hello and welcome to Guthli Talks presented by Miles SOBA, your backstage pass to the creative circus of branding and advertising. I'm Rohit Sharma and today we are here with the ad legend himself, Mr. Bharat Dabholkar, the man behind iconic Amul ads and the man behind the introduction of the term and the language Hinglish. I'll quickly dive into the questions so that you can get a better understanding of what this whole advertising industry is about. Okay, sir. So straight off, my first question to you is, how were your initial days when you started off right after your school or college? How were your initial days, or how our team puts it as Guthli days? How was your Guthli days like?
Well, initially I was never interested in getting into advertising.
Right.
My entire life's ambition was to become an IPS officer.
Oh, great.
And I'm a lawyer. I'm a full-fledged lawyer, and I've done business management. So advertising was never something that interested me. And when I was doing my law, I was working as a management trainee in Forbes Campbell, which is a Tata company.
Okay.
And we had many companies in our group. We had Guthli Talks paints and Indian vegetable products. So I used to meet a lot of agencies used to come there for presentations of different campaigns. So I said, this sounds very good. And I kept telling people, I have better ideas than what these guys have. So they all kept on saying, instead of criticizing from outside, why don't you join an agency?
Right.
So that's what encouraged me to join an agency. And luckily I joined an agency called Dekuna Associates, and the Sylvester Dekuna, who had launched the Amul Girl.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
And so that's where my career started. And then it just went on. So even theatre, everything happened because of Dekuna Associates.
Right. So like as soon as you told that you joined the Dekuna Associates and everything, so how welcoming is the advertising industry for like a 20-year-old like us? How welcoming is it?
No, it depends on, see, advertising is not all creative. That's one mistake people make. They feel that unless you're creative, you can't get into advertising. Advertising has different departments. Okay. So you have a client servicing department where you don't need to be creative.
Right.
If you have a business management degree, it helps. It's talking to a client and getting a brief from them and then going and selling the campaign again to them. Then you have a media department. Now we don't have a media department in-house anymore.
Right.
We have specialized media buying and selling agencies. Yeah. Then we have research department, we have development department, we have... so there's so many different departments that are in advertising. So it is not that if you're not creative, you can't get into advertising. The only tough thing in advertising is to get into advertising is difficult.
Right.
But once you get into it and you worked well in an agency, you have lots of agencies making you offers. So a mobility from one agency to the other is very easy.
Right.
So very few people like me, I stuck around for 15 years in the same agency. Okay. Otherwise, people don't even wait for 15 months. They get 1,000 rupees more, they shift.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
But it's a great profession.
Yeah. So you said initially it's very difficult, to get into that industry. So for people who are interested, like a 19 or 20-year-old who is interested into getting into this industry, what should he or she do different to help them stand out, and it could make it easier for them to get into any agency?
See, when I was applying to agencies, and I applied to many agencies, and I was asked the same question. You're a lawyer, you've done business management, there's nothing to do with advertising, so why should we employ you? Keeping that in mind, we started a thing in Mumbai University, which was a special advertising course.
Okay.
The BMM course. We started that. The idea was that if you can join that course, you know about the theory of advertising, you know about maybe you work in an agency for a few months. That makes it easier for you to. I don't know how successfully that has worked, although lots of colleges took the course.
Right.
And they had their faculty plus outsiders like us coming and giving them talks on advertising. So the idea was that shows the agencies that you are interested in advertising, that's why you've taken this course.
Correct.
And I think that's what people should do. All the youngsters who want to get into advertising, they must first decide which aspect of advertising they want to get into.
Correct. Like which wing of an agency
It's not enough to just go and say any job that comes in advertising I'll take.
Yeah.
You say I'm a creative guy, then they'll give you a creative test. They'll give you a test they'll give you a brand and say write about this or something. Or if you're a client servicing guy, then if you come and say, look, I've done my MBA or whatever the course, and I have a flair for meeting people and doing things. So it depends on which aspect of advertising interests you.
Right, understood.
And you've got to keep on trying. I must have applied to 10 agencies before I got a job, so
Oh, wow.
you shouldn't lose hope.
Right, understood, sir. Sir, so like I just want to know the story behind how that whole Amul ad started off, and still today it is just as relevant as it was a lot of years back. I still watch a lot of ads on newspaper, but now digitally. I read it digitally, and I still, whenever I see the Amul ad, I just zoom in and I just have like a small smile.
Okay, that's good. See, I'll tell you whatever Amul was, is, and will be, it's one of the longest running campaigns. I think it's in the Guinness Book of World Record or something.
Exactly, yeah.
The credit doesn't go to an advertising agency or to creative people. It goes to a man called Dr. Kurian. He was the world's best client you could have. He called an agency and said, I have a choice of maybe 400 agencies I can go to. I've chosen your agency. I know nothing of advertising. I know milk and milk products. So don't show me what you do. There is no client in the world who does that to you.
Correct.
He would say, like if I am sitting here with you today, and if I was handling Amul right now, and there was a cricket match going on, and Virat Kohli or somebody scored a century, I could think of a line here. I could phone up my office and say, do a drawing like this, get the hoarding guys to put up a scaffolding, and tonight we'll put a new hoarding there. So by tomorrow, before you read the papers, which showed that Virat Kohli had scored a century, there would be an Amul butter hoarding on that. Yeah. And people couldn't imagine how that was happening. That was happening because there was a client who said, don't show me anything. If there was a normal client, he would say, come tomorrow and meet up with my marketing team. Then they would have an idea. They would say, can we look at an alternative line? Then we would think of an alternative line. Then the next day again, we would go and say, this is an alternative line. Then they would say, can we have a different color scheme? So about 4 days would go in that. Correct. After 4 days, the Virat Kohli's century wouldn't make any difference.
Absolutely.
The topicality is what worked, and that was because of Dr. Kurian. So he was the most amazing client, and I didn't start Amul.
Right.
See, Amul, I don't know how many people know what Amul stands for. Amul stands for Anand Milk Union Limited. Yes. That's why it's called Amul. Right. Now, when Amul decided to get into the market with butter, the biggest selling butter in the market was a butter called Polson's, right, which was a market leader. And then there were some New Zealand butters available and things. So here was a Gujarat farmers cooperative with not a huge amount of money, right, deciding to get into a market which had a leader and which was spending money. They were doing advertising. So they had to do something different. Right. So Mr. Dicuna, and there was a man called Eustace Fernandez who was art director. He created the first Amul Butter Girl. Okay. And Mr. Dicuna created the whole concept that we'll do not just hoardings. That time there were hoardings, there were press ads. Right. There were some cinema films. Right. So a whole multimedia campaign. And even the slogan, utterly butterly delicious, was a part of a jingle. The last 2 lines were, Amul is the answer to your wishes, is utterly butterly delicious. So we kept on using that. But at that time, they had multimedia campaigns. Right. They had press ads, and the hoardings were very English. There were puns on English language at that time. Right. So when I took over, I realized that the butter usage had expanded. Everybody was using it. It wasn't just bread and butter. You would have it with parathas and roti or whatever else. Exactly. And then I realized that what was more popular, that reaction that we got, were for the hoarding designs. Right. So we said, let's not put money in press ads and films. Let's put all the money into hoardings, right, which is a big risk. See, hoarding is not the prime medium.
Right. Correct.
Internationally, hoarding is a reminder medium. You have a press ad, you have a film. Then to remind you of that film, you have one line on a hoarding. But the main medium is a film or a press ad. To put all the money onto hoardings and nothing else was a great risk. But that's where clients like Dr. Kurian scored. That he said, if you feel it's going to work, do it. So we put all our money in hoardings. And I started doing it in different languages.
Right.
So for Pune or Dadar in Mumbai, I would do a Marathi hoarding. For Gujarat, I would do a Gujarati hoarding. For Tamil Nadu, I would do a Tamil hoarding. So that made it more appealing to all the people. It was their language.
Right.
And I started changing it faster. We had the money that time.
Right.
Earlier, the budget for hoardings was limited because we had to have a film, we had to have a press ad. Now here, all the money was in hoardings.
Right.
So we could have more hoardings, we could change them faster, and that's how it worked.
Right. So you mentioned a lot about how important a client is for a whole creative process, right? So I just wanted to know, you have cracked so many brands, so many briefs, and you have launched them successfully. So what is your whole creative process, and how do you ensure that you come up with fresh ideas every single time?
See, there are two things. I always tell people Amul butter is not a good example of how advertising works. Because Amul, we have a 80% market share.
Right.
So we were having fun, and Amul got that image that it makes you smile. So that girl not only sold butter, it sold all the other Amul products.
Right.
They sold milk. That girl was a popular thing. But every other Amul product that we launched, it had to go through a whole process. We had to figure out, like if we launched Nutramul, which was against Bonvita and Boost, and we had to go and do a research of what is it that they don't have that we can claim that we have. So every other Amul product, like every other client that we've handled, like I've handled a lot of teas, all the Tata tea brands.
Right.
But there we were fighting with Brook Bonds and Liptons and all these big brands.
Right.
So there you can't just say, I'll sit here and think of an idea and do it. You have to go through the whole process of the market research, finding out what, and see what happens in, you must realize that in a consumer's mind, there are slots which are occupied.
Correct.
If you say soap, then there is in the olden days, a freshness soap was Liril. It had that girl under a waterfall, and that was the image. So that was a freshness soap. The Jantu Nashak soap was Lifebuoy. So you had that. Now you can't come and say that we also have a freshness soap. People already have that slot taken, which means you have to create a slot for yourself.
Right.
You can't be what we call in advertising a Me Too product. That this does that, I also do that. Then why should I come to you?
Correct. Absolutely.
There has to be something different about you. It could be flavor, it could be packaging, it could be taste, it could be price, it could be anything. You have to find that what is special to us and then harp on that.
Right.
Otherwise you become like any other. If I am using a tea and then you come and say, here's a new tea, why should I'm happy with the tea that I have. Unless you come and say, my tea has this. Or I have my own plantations, like Tata Tea had their own plantations in Kerala. So we would say that we don't buy teas from the auctions like every other company does. We have our own plantations. So everything is under our control.
Right.
Plus from plantation it comes straight to you. So our Kanandevan tea comes to you in 20 days. A Brook Bond would come to you after 2 months because it will go for auction, then somebody will buy it in auction, then blend it, then package it, then send it. So you want fresh tea, it's Kanandevan. So we had to find those kind of slots. Right. So in any campaign that you do, you have to figure out what makes you different.
Right.
And it's not just advertising, it's in your management schools you have to think that. See, you may have 30 students in your class and you have the same education.
Right.
So you go to a company and say, I have done this. So there are 29 other people who do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So you don't tell them how you are like others. You tell them how you are not like others.
Correct.
So you got to find out, there are 30 friends of mine from my class who've learned the same thing. They know as much about management as I do. But I have something special. Now, what is that special that you have is what makes you different from others. Like for me, the special thing was, I did my entire schooling in Marathi. I didn't know English.
Right.
Not a word in English. When I came to college, I couldn't speak a single sentence in English. And I joined Elphinstone College, which at that time was South Bombay's very prestigious college. And I had 145 prettiest girls in Mumbai in my class and 5 boys. So a dream time.
Absolutely.
And out of the 5 boys, one was blind.
Okay.
One was the principal's son who would never talk to girls because his parents stayed on the top floor. So they could see him and they say, why aren't you studying? Why are you wasting your time? The third one was very studious. He was only interested in studies. That left 2 of us who were very keen on talking to girls. And you don't have to believe it. I was better looking than that guy. But the sad part was he could speak English. I couldn't speak English. So I realized that if I have to talk to somebody, I must figure out how am I going to talk because I can't pick up English, fluent English so fast.
Right.
And then I realized that there's nothing like perfect English in the world.
Right.
Everybody speaks English in their own ways. A Maharashtrian speaks with the Maharashtrian thing. They use Marathi words. Gujarati would use Gujarati words. A Tamilian would use Tamil words.
Absolutely.
The whole accent is different. Even in England, there's nothing like perfect English.
Yeah.
There's a Cockney accent, a Scottish accent, Irish accent. French speak differently. So I said, I know Marathi, I know Hindi. I grew up with Gujaratis, I know Gujarati. I speak, read and write Gujarati. So I said, if I get stuck for a word in English, why can't I use a Marathi word or an English word or a Hindi word or a Gujarati word? And that worked. I could talk to everybody because I, with confidence, used to mix 2-3 languages. That helped me later in advertising. This whole English thing that people think I created, I didn't create English. It was a handicap that I had. I couldn't speak both the languages.
Right.
So I started mixing up languages. It helped me tremendously in advertising. It helped me tremendously in theatre. Because I used the kind of language nobody had used before. But that wasn't because of some intelligence of mine. That was a handicap that I had to talk like this. I had to write like this.
Right.
So that became my different point.
Correct.
And everybody has a different point.
Absolutely.
You just got to figure out what is it that you can promote. Branding is all about that.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a product or a person, how do you tell people I'm different from 50 other people?
So like today there is every other day there is another. Oh, sorry. So today every other day there is a new brand coming in and they're just bombarding consumers with like information from all sides, right? So how can one ensure that his or her brand stands out and that slot you were talking about, right? In today's world, what can they do to capture that slot?
That's a difficult thing. You see, when I launched Seat tires,
Right.
okay, now Seat tires, Mr. Goenka told us that we have the kind of technology, Italian technology, that no other tire company has. That's why our tires are tougher.
Yeah.
So I created that Bond Tough and a rhino as a symbol for them.
Right.
Today, every tire company has the same. I handled Apollo tires later. And every company has the same technology.
Correct.
So Seat can't claim that their tires are the toughest and last the longest. Then you need to create something that would appeal to the consumer.
Right.
So your entire effort should be to find out what would convince. See, there's no marketing advantage anymore. There's no product advantage.
Right.
All products are more or less the same. They all have the same technology.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised that Coke and Pepsi spend millions of dollars world over.
Right.
In America, in the 70s or something, they did a blind test. Blind test meaning you don't show the brand name and I think 60% people couldn't tell the difference between, or 65% people couldn't tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi. I think some 40% couldn't tell the difference between Coke and Sprite.
Oh wow. Right.
In spite of that, they spend millions of dollars. Why do they do that? They're all trying to create an image that means that Pepsi is for the younger generation.
Right.
It's the same tasting product. It looks the same, tastes the same.
Absolutely.
It's only the image that is different. So a Pepsi user would not drink a Coke. If he didn't find Pepsi in that shop, he would walk and find the Pepsi in some other shop. Why? Because he feels Pepsi is a different brand. It isn't. It's identical.
Okay.
So the entire effort of advertising or marketing is to figure out how can you create an image. That's the only thing that will work.
Right.
When you have uniformity in products, you have uniformity in packaging. Everybody can afford those shiny packs now.
Yeah.
Earlier, only expensive brands had that. Now, even some 2 rupee
Yeah.
pan masala would have the same shiny pack.
Yeah.
There's no product advantage. There's no marketing advantage. You have the same sales force. You are in a supermarket. Every brand is in the supermarket. There's no advantage that you have.
Right.
So, what advantage can you have? The only advantage you can have is an advertising advantage. can your advertising create an image that is better than other brands' images? And the entire effort should be in creating that image.
So well said, sir. Sir, so we are part of the organizing team of Guthli. So I wanted to ask a question based on that. So, like Guthli AdFest 2024, like presented by Miles SOBA, is only for the students, right? So how do you think this can start a ripple in terms of changing the landscape of hunting that talent, the right talent?
See, if anybody who's making those films, you have to make film in different categories. Right, exactly. You can pick and choose which one you want. Yeah. The mistake people make is they create something that they like or their friends like. Right. That doesn't matter. Who are you talking to? Does the consumer like that? Now, you're not really selling this to consumers. No, you're making it for a competition. But what should be in your mind is, in any communication, what you like or your friends like don't count. And that's what makes advertising so interesting. Right. You are talking to consumers you don't even know exist. Right. You're sitting here and talking, and I'm sitting in Mumbai in an air-conditioned room and creating a campaign for a girl in Bihar, in a small town in Bihar, or a small town in Kerala. I don't know how she thinks. Absolutely. Or how he thinks. Yeah. So how do I do something that would convince that girl in Bihar and the girl in Kerala at the same time? Right. So in any communication, you must keep in mind that I'm not doing it for myself. It's not to show how intelligent I am, see how beautifully I can shoot, see how great angles I can take. That doesn't count. Consumers don't understand angles. Right. What is that one thought that you leave with them? Right. So if you can get that, that is what an award-winning ad should be. So even your judges, when they judge it, they should judge it on that basis. Not how nice it looks. It can have brilliant lighting, it can have great acting. Yeah. What does it leave with the consumer? What does the consumer feel at the end of it? What did I see? Right. Whether it's social service. I mean, we won't have the time, but I was a part of Rajasthan Patrika had this annual campaign, social service campaign awards. Anybody could take part. Agencies could take, students could take, anybody. You could just write on a piece of paper and put that ad. It didn't have to have even visuals. Right. And we used to get some 4,000 entries. Wow. Or more than that sometimes. Once we, I think, got some 10,000 entries. And finally, I remember Piyush Pandey and Prasoon Joshi, me and I think somebody else, we were the judges. And the ad that got the award, which was a huge, some $4,000 award. And that ad was a handwritten ad by a guy who was not even in advertising. And it was on domestic violence. And he had taken a completely different, what I'm talking about being different, I'm saying this as an example because his headline was, in Hindi, was, और वो कुछ नहीं कहते. कि I got married and I came in this house, I had a very loving husband. I said कि दिवाली के लिए मुझे कुछ नया गहना चाहिए तो लेके आते थे, कुछ नहीं कहते थे. मैंने कुछ खाना बनाया, कभी नमक ज़्यादा गिरा, कभी नमक कम हुआ, कभी वो खाते थे, कुछ नहीं कहते थे. मैंने कहा आज जाके कहीं घूमने जाना है तो ले जाते थे, कुछ नहीं. His end was, कुछ नहीं कहना is a domestic violence. You must have communication between husband and wife.
Oh, wow, that's an interesting.
And we thought that was a concept that nobody ever, people think domestic violence is somebody beats you up. There were ads like this, a black eye, some wound here, crying girl, she beats me up, divorce. That he's a loving husband, but he does not talk. वो कुछ नहीं कहते. He's silent. He does whatever you want. And that is domestic violence. And that ad got the first, it was just written on a piece of paper. That got the first prize. And that is what I'm saying communication should be. Right. To think completely differently. See, thinking out of the box, and these are cliched words. Nobody thinks out of the box. Nobody allows you to think out of the box also. So in colleges, they'll tell you must always think, and you join an agency and a client, they'll never let you think out of the box. Exactly. They'll want to do something which is middle of the road. Right. Nobody wants to take chances, which is why clients like Dr. Kurian or Mr. Krishna Kumar, they come through with flying colors because they let you do different things. Right. See, the moment you do something that is innovative, it's innovative because it's not been done before. Exactly. If they say, "Pehle kisi ne kiya nahi," then if I do what they've done before, then how is it innovative? Right. But innovative means you take a chance. There's a 50% chance it won't work. And then you take that risk and you can create great brands.
So you were talking about taking those chances when, before any campaign goes. So what is that? On which basis do you took that chance? Like, was it your gut feeling, or do you use different parameters? How was it like? How did you approve any campaign?
I don't know, we just thought on our feet.
Okay.
Like when we launched Hit Cockroaches,
Right.
I still remember we were working on a campaign. We were thinking of a campaign. We had given the brand name, hadn't thought of a campaign, and I was having dinner with the client, R. Mohan. And one of our office guys came and said, Bayer is launching Baygon, which is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're ready with their campaign. So Mr. Mohan, who was a client, said, hey Bharat, we need to beat them. We need to be the first in the market. We talk about the first mover's advantage in advertising.
Yeah.
So think of a campaign. So you will not believe this, at a dinner table, on a tissue paper, I wrote a campaign. And I told him we'll do a campaign like this, simple campaign. And I showed him the paper and he said, I like it, let's go and do it. Get some filmmaker to come and do it. And Baygon had done 6 ads, brilliant ads, about how cockroaches are bad, you must kill them, they spread diseases, all that. What we did was simple. We had a newspaper, when you open the paper on the left side, the full paper was full of cockroaches. We actually shot cockroaches, real cockroaches in 3D. Wow. So it looked like the whole paper is full of cockroaches. And it said cockroach, cockroach. And the right side hand was fully white. The paper was fully white with the red hit can. It said hit cockroach, no cockroach. That was our campaign. And we had a 65% market share. It was simple. We didn't have to tell people cockroaches are bad. They know it's bad. That's why you want to kill them.
Right, exactly.
They know they spread diseases. Why waste time doing it? Just say cockroach. You don't want cockroaches, hit. And we had a jingle and a TV film on the same lines. And it worked. And it was written on a tissue paper at a dinner time with the client. And that's how great campaigns work.
So one last question. So you have acted in a lot of films also. So you have been present in both the sets of Bollywood film and an ad film. So how are these both different? How is the environment different?
See, advertising is, according to me, the toughest thing to do.
Right.
And the most interesting thing to do.
Absolutely.
I do theatre, I write and direct plays. I've written 33 plays up to now in English and performed all of them.
Right.
Films was just a hobby.
Right.
Somebody calls me to do a 2-day role, I go into it. Right. And you don't even need to act. See, what happens is, mostly in films, you're inconsequential. Right. A film doesn't run because of me or doesn't fail because of me. It runs because of Amitabh Bachchan or Salman Khan. I am just an add-on there. So if I act badly, it makes no difference. So for me, it's like a holiday. I know all these guys. I've known these guys for a long time. Salman, I know, Jackie Shroff. These are friends of mine from before. So for me, it's like a 4-day picnic.
Okay, sir. So that brings me to the end of the episode. And thank you so much for doing this, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I'm very sure that the viewers learned a lot of things about advertising today. This has been an honor for me, sir. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you. If you enjoyed today's chat, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your fellow creatives. Stay tuned for more insights, more inspiration, and more behind-the-scenes magic in the world of branding and advertising. And always remember, every journey starts with a Guthli.